Okay, for today's lesson we're going to look at two separate things, molecular polarity, and then separately we're going to look at intermolecular forces. Let's start with a review of electronegativity. So that's a measure of how well an atom can attract electrons. Again, we know that electronegativity is highest for fluorine. So this is going to come into play when we talk about molecular polarity. And then we'll come back into play when we look at molecular polarity and how it affects intermolecular forces. So when we talk about bond polarity, we're talking about sort of this imbalance of electrons. So in this particular example, we know that bromine has a higher electronegativity value, and so that means that bromine is going to take more of the electrons in my electron cloud away from that hydrogen, which has the lower electronegativity value. That doesn't mean that hydrogen won't have any electrons over there. It's just that bromine will have a greater pull for the electrons. And if you notice here, this should be a negative, delta negative, meaning that that side of the bond is slightly negative, and this is delta positive. Right, that side of my bond is slightly positive. We denote this by creating a polarity arrow. So we put a positive sign over the sign that is what we call electropositive, and then we draw an arrow to represent the direction that most of my electron cloud will be shifting. Okay, and so we talk about this generally over two particular bonds, but it can be drawn for a whole molecule. So there are some times that you can look at an individual bond's polarity or the presence of like a lone pair, which can cause an entire molecule to be polar instead of just a polar bond. So within a polar molecule, there will be one side of the entire molecule where the electron density is such that it will create a slight negative and a slight positive on one side of the molecule or another, and that's what we consider a dipole. And so you can think of the term dipole, di meaning two, and then poles like magnetic poles. In the case of the molecule that's shown here, this is our fluorine out here. Excuse me. This is our fluorine right here. And we know that fluorine has the highest electronegativity. So there's actually a polarity across the molecule in this direction, where I have a higher electron density around the fluorine than I do around my hydrogens on the opposite end. And you can see that again here. Notice that the red is sort of signifying a higher electron density than that blue. So here's an example of sort of like a weird sort of exception to molecular polarity. Even though oxygen has a higher electronegativity value than carbon in CO2, because the molecule is symmetrical and electrons are being pulled equally to both ends here, the molecule is overall considered nonpolar because of that symmetry. Nonpolar, there you go. Okay, in the case of water, because oxygen is more electronegative than both the hydrogen atoms, there's that imbalance within that molecule. The lone pairs are not shown in this particular case, but they would exist right here. Right? So you have to imagine those two sets of lone pairs. And beyond that, you have to also think about like the giant electron clouds that are existing on that oxygen end of the water molecule, which would then make this slide slightly negative and the other side slightly positive. So water is a polar molecule. So again, a dipole referring to two poles, right? So I've got a negative and a positive on one end, or a negative on one end and a positive on another. So it's specifically talking about an imbalance of electron distribution or electron density. So, requirements for what is called a dipole moment. So whenever we have done the electron counts, and then we've done our Lewis structure, and then we've built our VSEPR models, we can then talk about certain things within a molecule that will are our requirements for a dipole. So two of them. The first of which is that a molecule must contain polar bonds. So for instance, I have a hydrogen here and an oxygen here. That is a polar bond. The second is that the molecule must be asymmetric. So I know that this is polar, like we talked about before, because I've got lone pairs on one side, right? And I have to think about the three-dimensional structure, not the Lewis structure. So I've got my electron clouds on one side, right? We can draw them back in here. And then I have my hydrogens on the other side. So that molecule is asymmetric. Same thing here. I have 3 hydrogens on one side, but 1 fluorine, making that asymmetric. So here with my carbon dioxide, even though these bonds are polar, because they are pulling equally out to each side, here and here, this is a symmetrical molecule, making it nonpolar. Okay, so here are examples for my nonpolar molecules. Take a minute to draw all 3 of these molecules out on your paper, and then we will discuss them. Okay, here are 3 molecules. We've already discussed carbon dioxide a couple times. Again, it's coming back to that symmetry. Here, if we do our Lewis structure for BF3, we have drawn right here, but then we have to put it in its VSEPR structure. Remember that boron can only hold 6 electrons, so it doesn't get that full octet. It just gets its full shell with 6. So it makes that trigonal planar configuration, right? Trigonal planar. And it is symmetrical, so the BF bond is polar, but the overall molecule is symmetrical. Same thing when we look at the Lewis structure and VSEPR structure of carbon tetrachloride here. So here is my Lewis structure. Granted, I'm missing some electrons on my chlorine. Right? And then here is my VSEPR structure. So notice it's in that tetrahedral shape, but because all of my outside elements here are chlorines, it is symmetrical. So even though the carbon-chlorine bond is polar, because the molecule is symmetrical, the overall molecule is nonpolar. Here are 3 examples of polar molecules. So again, take a minute to draw them, and then we will discuss each. Okay, so here are the structures for our 3 polar molecules. HCl, hydrochloric acid, is very easy. You can see that chlorine, having the higher electronegativity value, is going to be drawing its electrons towards the chlorine. With the nitrogen, each bond between nitrogen and hydrogen is polar. But then again, remember, I also have that lone pair up top. So my overall polarity arrow on my ammonia here is going to be heading towards that lone pair. Okay. And with my CH3Cl, here's my Lewis structure. Here's my VSEPR structure. I've moved chlorine to the top for us just because it'll make things a little bit easier. But my overall polarity arrow is headed towards that chlorine. I know that for each hydrogen, between the hydrogen and carbon, it's headed in that direction towards the carbon, and then I know between carbon and chlorine it's headed up towards the chlorine. So I can draw my overall polarity arrow in that direction. Okay, so practice number 1, polar or nonpolar. The first thing I want to see over here is your electron count. Then I want to see your Lewis structure and your VSEPR structure. So take a minute and do that and tell me if it's polar or nonpolar and why. Okay, so if I do my electron count first, I get 5 electrons from the phosphorus, and then I have 3 fluorines. Oh, let's go back. I have 3 fluorines each with 7 electrons. So this is my Lewis structure. I always want you to draw your Lewis structure first and then go from there to your VSEPR structure. Notice again I have that lone pair on top. That's where most of my electron density is going to be. So I can draw my arrow in that direction, the direction of the lone pair. And that is a polar molecule. Okay, HCN, give this a shot. and when you're done, you can check it. Okay, we get a total of 10 electrons here. If we draw our Lewis structure and our VSEPR structure would be the same. They're both linear. But I know that nitrogen has the greater electronegativity value. So my electrons are being drawn out in this direction, and it is in fact polar. CS2, take a minute, draw it, and then we'll check our answer. Okay, we get a total of 16 electrons here. I draw my Lewis structure and my VSEPR structure. They're both the same. But because they are symmetrical, right, I have sulfur on both ends. My structure, go back here, my structure is considered symmetrical, and so this is nonpolar. Give this one a shot, and then we'll discuss this one. Okay, I get 12 electrons total, so again, I need to make sure that I have 12 electrons when I have ended. I've drawn my Lewis structure here. Oh, goodness. Oh, what's happening? Okay, I've drawn my Lewis structure here, and then I've gone ahead and created my VSEPR structure. So not only do I have polar molecules, right, I've got electron density being drawn towards the carbon here. I then have it drawn towards the oxygen here, right? So my overall polarity arrow is going to head up in this direction towards the oxygen, okay? Now, this one is going to be a little bit trickier, but I'm going to go ahead and do it with you. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the Lewis structure because our formula here gives us some indication as to what our molecule is going to look like. So I have my CH3, so I'm going to go ahead and draw my CH3 chunk here, bonded to a CH2, bonded to an OH, an alcohol group here. So I can tell right away that it's asymmetrical. When I try and draw this, I'm going to go ahead and draw this for you. It's going to look a little strange, so I'm going to draw my carbon backbone first. So carbon to carbon. I'm going to go ahead and give my oxygen here, and then my hydrogen. I'm not going to expect you to draw things quite to this level here. This is a little bit complicated. I have my hydrogen sticking off here. And then my hydrogen's out here. Again, a little bit more complicated than I need you to know how to draw in terms of its VSEPR structure. But do notice that I've got this oxygen, or this whole OH group here, that is asymmetrical, and I'm drawing electron density towards this oxygen. So I will see a slight negative sort of in this direction. You don't need to draw an overall polarity arrow, although it would head in this direction. You just need to know that this is polar. Okay. We're going to do our next video here on intermolecular forces separate, but it is really important that you have a good grasp of molecular polarity before we move into molecular forces.